Hey, what's up, everybody? It's Pikel. I'm doing a little bit of research for the LEC right now, and I figured I would just record it and release it for those of you who are thinking about the slate on Friday. Um, Maybe it'll help you form some opinions before the salaries get released and before the odds get released. I don't know if the lines have been released, I haven't seen them. So what we're gonna do is I'm gonna go team by team in reverse order. So from 10 to 1 based off of last season's standings, and I'm gonna take a look at their roster, see if they made any changes. Um, Gamepedia says that it's not official until week 1, which that's fine. Uh, they're not wrong very often. So let's begin. So Team Vitality last split went 2-16. Just to put that in perspective, that's 11% of their games. So if you knew that they were only going to win 2 games, the odds would suggest you should be betting them at plus 1,000. So every single one of those matches, if it was less than plus 1,000, then you're not getting great value. And it depends on who their competition is and everything like that. But I figured I would just throw that out there. I don't think this includes the VIG or anything like that. These are just rough estimates that I put on them, but it should be pretty accurate. So Team Vitality. What do we know about Team Vitality from last year? So let's go to match history. So they had Cabochard, Skeens, Selfie, Comp, and Steelback. Okay, so they went through several roster changes last split, and this is their current roster. So Cabochard is the same. Cabochard is a veteran top laner. So I'll be filling in the starting roster and stuff like that. Mowgli and NJI, I'm gonna put a question mark because I don't know who is starting. In general, I think it's just not good to have substitutes. I've said that like every time that I've talked about this kind of stuff, and the reason is because, well, especially for betters, it's not good because it's just another thing that we have to take into consideration, specifically for like DraftKings and stuff like that. We just don't know who is playing, and you can never feel great about team chemistry, team synergy if somebody's always in danger of getting taken out of the lineup. Um, yeah, just really tough to trust players in that situation. So this is their new mid laner, Milika, from Serbia. He was on Vodafone Giants. He didn't. I don't think he played in that European Masters tournament, right? All right, let's go back to Team Vitality. If he had a name change or something, maybe that explains it. Okay. Selfie's contract expires. Selfie's been around for a long time. Not a great player. Uh, Not so surprising. Skeens and Steelback leave for Academy roster, so they still want to. How does this make sense? NJI. So where's Mowgli at? Why isn't Mowgli on here? Mowgli becomes inactive. All right. So maybe it's not a huge question mark. Mowgli was good when he played in Korea. At least good enough. So NJI, Njai, he was on their academy team. Jarvan, Nocturne, Gragas, Skarner, Karthus. Okay, so this is not the kind of player that I want to see on a team that I'm going to bet on. That is not anything to get excited about. Team vitality. So I know that when I like a few splits ago when I used to watch Vitality, they were always a team that kind of wanted to take the game pretty slow. Cabochard is sort of a split pusher. That seems to be his preferred play style. He wants to be on a carry champion and create pressure in the top lane, but that hasn't really been a good play style in professional play in a while. Or at least not the main play style in a while. So he's basically playing a playstyle that requires you to be better than the enemy top laner, and he is not better than most of the enemy top laners. Seems like a bad plan. All right, next up, SK Gaming. SK Gaming went 414 plus 360. So obviously, it's not linear. I mentioned that in one of my other videos. It like gets pretty extreme, like how it goes, how the numbers shoot up. So let's see. Jenax, Trick, Zazie, Crown Shot, Limit. Sakre left. Yeah, so Sakre was not good last year. Trick was a good jungler. This should be a meta that fits his playstyle, assuming he's still mechanically good enough to compete on the professional level in Europe. I would assume that he is. So that's somewhat interesting. I think that you could potentially have him carry games still, especially in this meta. So like the last meta they played on was 10.6. That's just when carry junglers were coming back in style. I think they may have even subbed him out at one point. Let me just take a look at their match history from the end of the season. Yeah, so self-made. That's a different split. Okay, so we're here. Sakura, Trick, Jenax, Crown Shot, Limit. So we had Kindred. That's a good sign. Rek'Sai, Talia, Kindred, Diana. Yeah, it's a lot of those champions aren't going to be used, but the Kindred is a good sign because Kindred, Graves, Nidalee, those are really the three champions that you want to see your jungler playing because they have the highest kill score upside. In terms of finishing the season, they're probably going to be at the bottom end. So let's do this. Bottom. And this is subject to change based on what I see in other rosters, but that's how I'm going to start it off. All right. Okay, so Schalke. Schalke is a very interesting team. I have been a supporter of Schalke for a while in terms of like how I feel about their team because I really like their coach, Dylan Falco. He used to be the head coach of Fnatic, and when like they were like going into the finals or something, and he messaged on one of my videos saying like, "Hey, are you interested in like doing item analysis for the team or something like that?" We never really connected, and I don't know if it was like a troll or something like that, but like I talked to him on Facebook, Twitter, stuff like that, and nothing just ever came of it. But I have liked them since then, for self-serving reasons, obviously. So Adewamne, he's been around forever. Gilius and Lorox, they're both decent junglers, nothing special. Abadage, he played pretty well last split. Inox played pretty well last split, and then Dreams wasn't great, but he was good enough. Let's take a look. I don't think they would have this guy Kamito. Inox will probably be their starter. I would assume it's Lurox. But they could go back and forth. I don't think that Forgiven is going to be on the team. He had a falling out with them last split. He was basically saying like they're not trying to win. And then he left, and then they started to win, I think. So they did win a bunch of games at the end of the split. I actually won some money betting on Schalke at the end of the LEC season. Lurox. Jarvan, Rek'Sai, Sejuani, Gragas. Doesn't look like he's the kind of carry jungler that I like. Rek'Sai is a carry jungler, but it's not the same as Kindred, Graves, Nidalee. The mechanics that are required to play those champions are just different. Not saying that one's more difficult than the other, but Rek'Sai I feel is a little simpler, more simple. I think that Schalke has a chance to be better than they were last season. I'd be surprised if they weren't like 5-6. I think that Adewamne, as a top laner, he is good enough mechanically to compete on this level, and he's exceptionally he has an exceptional game understanding, and yeah, he's just a very solid player. He could carry a game if he really needs to, but he's more there to like set up the rest of his team to be in carry positions. So I do like Schalke. XL. We have Expect left, Mickey left. All right, so we have a new top laner. We'll have to see where he's from. Cadril. Special. He was from their academy team. Patrick played okay last split at different points. Torre was okay. They did have some good matches. What's going on with this Swiffer guy? What's up? Swiffer is added as a substitute. Okay, Cries. He was on Unicorns of Love. Whatever. Not a big deal. That kind of makes me think they're going the opposite direction. Special was on XL. They played... Okay, he was in EU Masters. A lot of losing. He is playing some interesting champions, though. Akali is like the kind of champion that a player will choose if they think that they like can hard carry the game. So like basically them against the entire enemy team. That is a good quality to have as long as you're not like wrong about being better than the enemy mid laner. So I think that XL will probably be same or worse than last split. Mickey, a lot of people gave him garbage for like not being great in Europe, but if you take a good player and put them on a bad team, they are not going to look good because all of your statistics are are extremely highly correlated with your team success. And if you're like at a talent discrepancy in 3 or 4 of the positions, you're just not going to look good. So I don't think it's going to be an upgrade from Mickey to Patrick. From Mickey to Special. Sorry. Next up, Rogue. Rogue was pretty interesting. They have Finn inspired Larson, Hansama, and Vander. So that should be the same team. So same roster. Finn inspired Larson, Hansama, and Vander. So I mean, like Vander is probably the shot caller, smartest person on the team. Understands the game extremely well. Has been playing in the LEC for a really long time, and he's like a veteran presence on the team. That's not necessarily enough to like make them a very good team. Hansama has always been thought of as a very strong player, probably a little overrated. He was on Misfits, I think, when they made it into the top flight. Decent team. I think that middle upward, meaning I think they'll be in the middle of the table with upward chances of getting even better than that. I think I missed a few of these. So like here's the win percentage. So Schalke 33%, plus 215. XL 39%, 157. Rogue not Rogue Warriors. Rogue is 50%, roughly minus 110 with the VIG. Misfits minus 125. Mad minus 160. Then we have 2 teams at minus 250 in Fnatic and Origin, and then we have G2 at 83%. Why did I not write that one in? That's about minus 500, minus 506 ish. So like you wouldn't bet that number you would not bet that number most of the time in these matches, because you just don't think there's a lot of value on it. So every time they get down into like the 200 range, even like the 200 range, you can consider picking them. Like even if they're playing against Fnatic, Origin, any of those teams, they'll probably still be a gigantic favorite, but there should be some value there. Next up is Misfits. Misfits was interesting last year because they kind of outperformed what they were expected to do. And it looks like they're better than they were at the end of the split. So Dan and Razork, they played well together. They have good synergy. They've both showed that they could carry games. Dan had some good Aatrox games, I think. Fabivin is good. Kabe is coming over from TSM. Kabe went from Europe to North America, and then TSM didn't perform well last split. They kicked him and brought back Doublelift. So I don't think that Doublelift is better than Kabe. He just might be a better fit for the team, which is kind of crazy to think. I don't necessarily agree with the decision, but I'm not in charge of TSM. And they have Denick, and then DOS. So let's see the match history. Who was their AD carry last split? Oh, no. Oh, Bvoy. So Bvoy just went to Brazil. He's on a team in Brazil now. So there's that. Definitely an upgrade. I think Kabe is definitely better than Bvoy. That's got to be an upgrade, right? So I would say middle upward. Could they contend with? They could probably be the third best team. They're gonna compete for being the third best team in the league. I think this split. So maybe there's going to be some spots where they have value. Let's see. Arome, Shadow, Humanoid, Karzi, Kaiser. So these guys, Mad played well in the playoffs. They're going to be overhyped coming into this season. I will be looking to bet against them. Karzi is a pretty good AD carry, but it's like he's the kind of player that doesn't understand that he is given more resources than everybody on his entire team, and like the public loves him because he's an AD carry on a winning team. But is he really that much more talented than all of the other AD carries in the European League? I would say probably not. They're closer than the public will lead you to believe. So that means that his success is going to be tied to his team's success. I think that Shadow is an interesting player. He showed that he has some carry upside, carry potential, and he's probably not getting enough credit, and Karzi's probably getting too much credit. So maybe in the beginning of the season, when it's really like a jungle carry meta, maybe they're better off in that situation. Let's see what the end of the split looked like for them. I mean, they beat G2, so everyone's going to remember that and just be like, oh my god, they beat G2 early in the playoffs, but then they lost later on. So we have Lee Sin. I want to see the champions from that G2 series again. Gragas, Kindred, Lee Sin, Elise Olaf. So he's obviously very versatile. He plays multiple champions he played 5 champions in one series. I mean, that's pretty good. Like these players know all of these champions, but to go from game to game and play different champion, it is kind of impressive to be able to pull off all the different mechanics and remember all the things that you need to remember about individual champions. He's a good player. I would like to see more stuff like Kindred. He played a lot of Olaf. Not a huge fan of Olaf players in pro play. Yeah, so Mad's an interesting team. I'm gonna say overrated by public. That's gonna be my note for them for the beginning of the split. If they are continuously beating good teams and playing really well, then I would have to kind of reassess how I feel about them. But all right. OG. So Origin is interesting because they play a different style than basically everyone else in Europe. They're more macro focused. Some people would say they're more Korean, or they're trying to be Korean, which is like the slower pace of play, very calculated, trying to scale into the late game, playing around like predictable win conditions. So Origin's another team that I could see being just as good as they were last split, but I would also not be surprised if they were if they like fell backwards. Xerxes pretty good, Upset's pretty good, Nuke Duck is not that good. He's kind of overrated, but Nuke Duck is an interesting DraftKings play because his stats from last split were like lower than you would expect for a mid laner, but I think that was kind of just a fluke. But I also don't think he's great. So, I wouldn't be surprised if Nuke Duck won somebody 20 grand at some point this season. Or, I mean, Nuke Duck will probably be less owned than he should be in the big contest on Friday. But I forget what the matchups are. I'll look at the matchups before we're done and give a first take on that. But let's see. Those lines are probably out by now. Odds Portal Europe. All right, I'm not looking. I didn't look. Just relax. So they are, I would say, middle of the table and upward. So in reality, the big difference in Europe is that G2 and Fnatic are much better than everyone else, and G2 is probably much better than Fnatic. So you really have G2, Gap, Fnatic, Gap, OG, Mad Lions, Misfit, Rogue, Gap, XL, SO4, SK, Vitality. SO4 is probably the best out of the bad teams, and maybe they could compete with... They could probably compete with Mad Lions, Misfits, Rogue, those teams. So let's start rearranging stuff. So like I said, Gap, OG, Mad Lions. I would say Misfits. So Misfits on the first day of play may go under-owned, depending on who they're playing against, because like the teams build momentum in the public's eyes based off of the announcers a lot of the time. So a lot of people probably aren't thinking about the roster changes that Misfits have made. But after the first during the first telecast or broadcast or whatever you want to call it, they're going to say stuff like, "Oh, Misfits was so good last season. Like at the end of the season, they were like the third best team or fourth best team. But then they upgraded B-Boy into Kabe, and now they're going to be better than G2." And like that, because they just want to like hype stuff up. But I think there is some truth to that. So right now is a potential buy low opportunity, but after the first day of games or second day of games, things are going to fundamentally change, I think. So I would say 3 through 5. Oh my god, don't do it to me, Excel. 3 to 5. I would expect them to be a top half team. OG, Mad, Rogue. So OG, Mad, Rogue. I think that I do like Misfits more than both of these teams. So let's just do 3, 4, 5. Excel, you're killing me. You're slowly killing me. Maybe it's just all the blue light that's killing me. 4, 5, 4, 5. So that's pretty good. Then we have... I think this is right. And then this. And I'm willing to be wrong on this. I think that the LEC is almost unwatchable when it's not like two good teams playing against each other, because the announcers just make you want to like drill holes into your head. So 6, 7. Let's see if this works. Whoa. So this is kind of how I see it going. I think that Misfits is probably the team that I'm the highest on relative to where they were last season. Pretty high on SO4 as well. I like the core of the players they have. They were incorporating them last split, and they didn't really care as much about last split because they started off and they just weren't very good, and they kind of pivoted almost instantly after the whole Forgiven situation. And if that's still the case, like I don't pay attention to news in LEC for the most part. I really depend on watching the games and like betting on it and stuff like that to build my knowledge throughout the season. But I'm feeling pretty good about that so far. Fnatic, I don't think they had any changes. Bwipo, self-made. So I love Bwipo, huge Bwipo fan. Self-made, good player. Nemesis is probably overrated, but he's pretty good. Reckless, extremely consistent. Hylissang, still a good player. Hylissang, he is like, he's a League of Legends player. Like your favorite player's player, you know that saying where it's like, he may not get a lot of the public attention and support, but if you ask players around the league like who is extremely good, they'll probably say Hylissang is still extremely good because he understands how to play the game so well, and he's willing to die for his team to get a larger advantage. It reminds me of Aphromoo. Aphromoo is not as good as Hylissang is, but it's that same style of player. Just a very good player. G2, everybody's favorite. It's very difficult to dislike G2 even though they're so dominant because they're so funny and likable, and I'd be surprised if they didn't just win again. They made a slight roster change with mid and AD carry. They swapped last split and they're swapping back now, and yeah, that's just how it is. They played well with this exact roster in the past. In like last Worlds, they did a great job. So if I had to bet money on it, I would just bet G2 to win another split in the LEC. I don't have any reason to think that they won't repeat. Just super good. Actually, let me check. Let me see if there's any futures out there. So, what percentage of the time would I say G2 wins? I think that G2 probably wins the split 70 or 80% of the time. So before I see the future, I'll probably guess it's like 80% minus 400. All right, they don't have futures out. So money line for match 1. So these are the games for Friday. So let's copy this down. Let me just get my template that I've been using. Okay, favorite in game 1. Rogue. Line. Minus 234. Let's do it like this. Rogue, Fnatic, Origin, wow. G2, Schalke. Then we have minus 272, minus 605, minus 301, minus 182. And then let's get the implied win percentage. Yeah, a lot of big numbers. Okay. So we have Rogue, who I was saying is going to be middle of the table, and then we have XL at 188. We have Fnatic against Misfits. Misfits is going to be very interesting week 1. that is a team that you'll get some leverage on the field. Probably you could they haven't released the lineups, but based off of these numbers, I would assume that you could make a G2 Misfits lineup. So you're basically just projecting Misfits to get the upset over Fnatic, and then G2 beats Mad Lions, and that's a pretty good roster or a pretty good lineup. So Fnatic Misfits, OG against SK. That's gonna be a boring game. OG probably just wins that game like 13-2, something like that. G2 Mad Lions plus 237. They're trying to attract money onto Mad Lions. I'm sure that they have a lot of fans in Europe. I'm not betting against G2. The G2 are the Patriots, basically, or were the Patriots. They are what the Patriots used to be. How about that? Vitality, 149. Okay, so just based off of this and based off of what I just looked at, let's see. Rogue against XL. I have Rogue right about where XL is. So I wonder why there's so much more. There's So that's an interesting spot. That seems to be a little extreme. So I would take a look at that. Misfits against Fnatic, I would take a look at that. OG against SK, I'm not playing either side, no value. G2 against Mad, I would probably want G2 because they're undervalued. Like, I think that they're going to do something like 15-3. I would just assume they're roughly the same. They're going to be better this split than they were last split. Period. Last split, they had Perkz in the mid lane, Caps in the bot lane. Perkz is a better AD carry than Caps is. Caps was kind of exploited by Mad Lions in those games. I think that Perkz reminds everyone how good he is by switching back to AD carry flawlessly. And they could be flexible too. Like if there are certain matchups they want to look for, they could just swap back and forth. I think that's also an option. SO4 against Vitality. Vitality is bad. Are they bad enough to make SO4 a minus 182 favorite? Not a lot of value there. SO4. Oh, that's tough. I don't know. That one's probably too tough. So I'm gonna pick Rogue. I'm gonna pick. So Fnatic against Misfits. Bwipo against Dan's pretty close. Selfmade against Selfmade against Razork is pretty close, but Selfmade's actually really good. Nemesis against Fabivin. Nemesis is probably thought of more highly right now, but at their peaks, Fabivin was considered to be one of the better mid laners in the world, so tough to say. And then in the bot lane, it's Kabe against Reckless. Kabe is probably just as good, if not better, than Reckless now. Had a bad season. He kind of comes off like he has a bad attitude as well, just off the very limited sample size of things that I've seen. Just something seemed like he would clash in a team. Like he seems kind of introspective, like broody, like just some weird things to consider there. And then Hylissang. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if Fnatic won. I wouldn't be surprised if Misfits won. So, based off of the lines that are out there, I kind of have to take Misfits, and I will consider betting that in real life at plus 216. That's good value on your money. It would also be a good DraftKings bet. So, I will be looking to make XL lineups, Misfits lineups. OG against SK. I don't think I'll pick either of these teams for DraftKings lineups. Maybe get some exposure to Origin just because they're such big favorites and it's like a guaranteed secondary stack that wins. But probably not interested in that. And then we have OG. And then G2 against Mad. G2 easily. Like, I'm not the kind of person who bets like $300 to win 100. This is close. This is enticing because of what I just was researching, and just thinking to myself, like, they're swapping back. They're going to be even better than they were. This is like their final form kind of thing. They're gearing up towards Worlds. They want to win Worlds. Can they do it? Are they good enough? Who knows at this point? We'll have to wait and see. But that's why it's so much fun to watch. So SO4 against Vitality. I mean, I think SO4 is going to win, but I'm not going to bet on them at minus 182. So bet. No value. Maybe value. SK no value. G2 maybe. And the only reason why I would bet it, I mean, the reason why I would bet it is because I think that there's value. The G2 wins more than 70% of the time against Mad Lions. Because in their second match, they went 3-1, so it's 75%, and I think that was more indicative of how those teams would actually play each other back then. And then now with Perkz being in the bot lane, I think it'll be even better than that. What they did to Fnatic in the finals was amazing. Like, they destroyed Fnatic. They had a great game plan and just demolished them. That was very impressive, and that was with a suboptimal roster. Just something to keep in mind. SO4 against Vitality, no value. So that's how I'm looking at these games right now. Everything is subject to change. The new Discord is up. If you want to support me, check out my Patreon, Twitter, Twitch, YouTube, etc. Share the videos. Leave comments if you want to get some of like your one-liners into the esports center bits. They're a lot of fun to make. I actually enjoy doing it, which is great. That's a lot of fun. So thanks for watching. On to North America. I'm going to do the North American LCS next. Not sure when I'm going to post that. If you want to see individual team videos, I would consider doing that as well. That's just a lot more time consuming, I think, and not sure what the views would be like for something like that. But it's something to take into consideration. See ya!